Hey everyone, it's Jason and welcome to another Transformers War on Cybertron deck building game box set. So this is a brand new core set. So they've had the original two, the regular just Transformers deck building core set, and then a Darkness Within. One side was you gotta play as Autobots, the other side you gotta play as Decepticons. This core set lets you play as both. It has half Decepticons, half Autobots. So it's kind of cool. It gives you a little bit combination of the both. With this, you can mix it with any other of the core sets, any of the expansions, and gives you just a lot more playable new cards. Has some new game features in it as well, which is really fun. So we're going to go over the core set, and at the end we'll go over our bonus pack we got as well. But we'll worry about that at the end of the video. But yeah, of course it's going to have, because you have Autobots and Decepticons in here, you have team versus team mode. So Autobots versus Decepticons. You can technically, I guess, play Decepticon versus Decepticon or Autobot if you want. But we have cooperative, or we also have solo mode. So that's really fun that we get options for however you want to play. You want to play with someone, against someone, or by yourself. But yeah, there's gonna be some really cool stuff in here as well. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna jump into all the different rule books and all that. So the first thing is, this is my own personal storage case, because I'm not gonna go through pull all the different extra little components. This is how I store everything. But you are going to get your standard tokens. Now, there's a lot in here. This is not the number you will get in this set, because this is my full collection. But you'll get victory points from 1s, 5s, and 10s. You will get start of the turn and ongoing tokens, just to keep track of, like, hey, you have an effect that does that. You can keep track of it. As well as some that are minus movement or plus energy tokens. And again, this is to keep track on your characters, how you're doing stuff. Stand bases for your characters, as well as you'll get your large energon cubes and your baby energon cubes. So those are like the same components you would have gotten in any of the other ones. You will also get your different brand new hero standees and villain standees for your game. The only brand new component we have are these 4 tokens here, which one side are Autobots, the other side are Decepticons. And we'll get more into what those do when we get to the cards they work for. It's all about a new mechanic of the game. Alright, so I'm just going to do a brief run through on this. I'm not going to get into, we'll get into details as we go along. But they're your command tokens are what they're called. So some of the new stuff in here we're going to have is we're going to have mission cards. There's brand new missions. Mission mode you can do, it's just kind of neat. Our energon is showing how many we have. 42 small, 8 large. 36 VIP tokens, 16 tracking tokens. We're going to have some reference cards which are really cool. Yeah, so it's just kind of showing how you can set up. So team versus team, you can have a 1v1 or a 2v2 game, and just try to decide who can win, collecting victory points. In co-op and solo, there are no victory points. Basically, it's just trying to avoid damage. So it's kind of a neat, different way. When you're fighting against somebody, you're trying to see who can basically collect the most stuff or defeat the most opponents and things like that. When you're playing co-op solo, you're just trying to defeat all the main bad guys while not being defeated yourself. And then, if for some reason you're not familiar with what a deck building game is, just a quick idea is each person is going to start with a personal 10-card deck. So every deck at the beginning of the game is the exact same deck. So all the players are going to play the same cards, and then as you go through, you purchase new cards to make your deck better. So if I'm the Autobots, let's say I'm playing Optimus, I'm going to purchase different maneuvers or technology cards or other Autobots to strengthen my deck to make it better, while defeating Decepticons, and taking control of sites and doing this other stuff to basically ensure my victory. And you're gonna have a giant oversized card. That's the one that's gonna make everyone play a little bit differently. So if I'm playing as Elite 1 versus playing as Optimus, I'm gonna have different abilities and skills to start with, which might dictate how I decide to build my deck. So if one character is meant more for doing damage, you might buy more damage-based cards. If one character has movement, you might buy movement-based cards. And that's just some of the different ways you're going to go. So then another big thing here is this is what a unique aspect to the deck building game for this is you start a matrix. You have a card layout here, and then as you go around, you move your little miniature around the board, and you reveal tiles. So you could reveal a brand like I'm Optimus. I might reveal a new Autobot to help me out, but I might get ambushed by a Decepticon and I have to fight. I might run into a boss Decepticon like Soundwave or Megatron that I have to take out and defeat. You could run into a Psych that has more Energon to help boost your abilities and pay for your costs. So it's kind of neat because you're traversing like almost a world as opposed to just drawing from a lineup of cards. And then when you're playing versus somebody else or cooperative, you can use the layout to try and help or hinder each other. Because you could knock another character, send them into an area where they have to fight somebody else, or you could pull someone away from them. So there's a lot of really neat mechanics in there. There's a lot of different setup in here that I'm not going to go over. One big one in here we do want to mention, though, is there are polities, which are brand new card type. So you have 3 random sites that are non-polities. You have regular polity cards. And we'll get into those when I get to that. So yeah, you play cards, spend, move. Then I want to get into all the little basics of everything. As you go through the game, though, you will spend your energy on to do special abilities. Convert your transformer from either bot to alt mode, activate your abilities. You also destroy cards. Sometimes you want to destroy your starting, your early basic cards, so you're only drawing your better cards. And then again, we have missions, which is a brand new thing, and commanding polities. So when I get to those cards, I will bring the rulebook back out and we'll look into them a little bit more. When you're fighting adversaries, which is anybody of the opposite faction. So if you're Autobots or Decepticons and vice versa, you get to do attacks to them. You get to block their attacks. There are encounter cards, ambushes, all sorts of fun stuff. Big breakdown on good stuff. Your friends can assist you. That's a good breakdown of how to do all these, but again, I don't want to keep getting into all of that. Main deck cards, basic cards, explaining stuff, cooperative solo, customizing your game. So yeah, just here's some of the different sets. And you can customize stuff very easily by just, if you take out a level 5 or a 5 cost maneuver card, replace it with a different 5 cost maneuver card. So you can kind of tailor your deck to however you feel like playing. Maybe, hey, I don't like this type of card, or these are too hard. Or maybe you want to theme it a little bit better, like, hey, after 5 sets, we've collected a bunch of the Dinobots, or we've collected a bunch of Stunticons. Let's put all those guys together. So very cool. Alright, so I don't want to spend a ton of time on all of the rules and stuff. I kind of just want to hop into what's actually in the game. First thing I do want to look at, though, is we have some reference cards. Now, I also want to make a quick note here. All my cards are sleeved. I've had to re-record this video from the original time. I usually try and record videos directly out of the box, so I have, my fresh impression on the game, seeing most of the cards for the first time or reading them with everybody else. Also, I don't have them all sleeved either. So if they have different backs, I will definitely show them off. And some of the cards do have special backings to separate them from the rest of the decks. So we got some reference cards here, which I don't think have been included in any other sets. We do have our turn sequence. We do our action phase. Here's what you can do during your turn. So a couple other new things we do have listed here is command a polity and clearing a ruin, and completing a mission. So 3 brand new things we can do. And on the other side, we have endgame conditions, endgame scoring, which is really fun. Just a nice quick one we do have another card here for battle reference, which is really good. Nice to have this. You don't have to keep pulling out the giant book. I also like this: if you're not confronting a boss, ignore the red text. So the red text is if you're fighting a boss. If you're not, just read the black. It's a neat way to do it rather than giving us two separate cards. And that continues on that side. And then we have, so we have co-op reference. So here's how to set up for a co-op game. Because it does co-op or solo, because they do change stuff a little bit. And on the back side, we just have some other rules for it, like what do for polities and missions and stuff like that, because they do change. The game was meant to be played as, I think, generally either a co-op or a versus game. Like, the solo kind of got added in there. Alright, let's take a look at our basic cards first, and then we'll hop in and start looking at our Transformers. So, we have these bold cards. There are 24 of them. And these are part of your starting hand. So each player will have 10 cards. So they'll have 6 of these and then 1 of the other 4 cards. As at the top here, 0 cost. It provides you with 1 energy you can use. Has no other extra special abilities. But it says, if you spend an energon, you can pay 1 less power the next turn. Next time you buy a card on a space, your turn. So, yeah, just it gives you an extra little thing to do. Yes, you'll have 6s. This is your primary way of buying stuff. Which is what you need to do. You need energy to buy brand new cards. Make your deck better. Then we have 4 copies, so 1 for each player, of artillery. So this gives you 2 energy and 1 ranged attack. Or at 1 range. So you can do stuff at range now. And if you confront something, you can get +1 power if you spend an energon. So that's definitely nice. These have lots of the same abilities as some of the other core sets, but some of the effects are different and the names are different. So you could mix and match these as well if you choose. We have our 4 copies of Resupply. So Resupply will give you your movement. Movement early in the game is always going to be very important because this is how you get around the map. If you fight an enemy or an adversary you can't defeat or a card you can't buy, definitely need to be able to move to a new location to find one. Resupply says if you have no energon, gain 2 energon, otherwise gain 1. It doesn't have a special energon ability because it's just refilling your energon. We have 4 copies of Patch, which also gives you movement. It says you may return 1 damage controlled by target character in your space or an adjacent space to the stack. Pay 1 energy to destroy 1 starter you control, or 1 damage in your discard pile. So damage are going to be special cards you can get that basically hinder your deck. As you get them, they clog up because they don't provide you any bonuses. Typically, then they also have some sort of negative effect. Some of the very core ones really didn't do too much. Excuse me. And then lots of the expansions that add ones that have different and various bonuses on there. The other thing they do also do, though, is if you're playing co-op or solo, if you collect 5, you lose the game. So in team versus team, having too many damage, although it makes it harder to play your game because your deck gets clogged up, it just reduces your points at the end of the game. So you could maybe ignore a 1 or here or there. But solo and co-op, you have to take care of these. So a card like Patch becomes much more valuable in that mode. Then our last starter card is Scout. So Scout, which we also have 4 copies of, says Flight. You may flip a card in an adjacent space. You may flip a card in an adjacent space face up. So this lets you look at an additional area, which is always nice to have. So that way you can peer at it before you jump into it. Then we do have the Flight. So it says the card with a Flight keyword allows you to use that specific card's move value diagonally or orthogonally, which is up, down, left, right. Flight does not grant diagonal movement to other cards with move you control or move from your alt mode. So this basically lets you can move at an angle. So basically you have 8-way movement across your board. And then lets you look at something next to it. So you can kind of peek and maybe use another move card to move on it. or whatever you need to do. We're going to look at a couple other basic cards here before we jump into our robots. So then we have our reinforcement cards. There's 16 of these. So this is a deck that is always available to use. So from the start of the game, you'll always be able to purchase reinforcements at any time. So that way, if you don't like what cards are on the table, or you have extra energy to spend, you can get this. Basically, it's a little bit better than your starter cards, but it's not quite as good as some of the other cards you'll get. So it costs 2, provides 1 energy, 1 range, 1 movement, has the ability to block, which is always nice, which will help you avoid attacks. As you may convert, so lets you flip your character over. So that's always good as well. I was going to try and see exactly what they... blocks. An attack can be avoided by discarding a card from your hand with the block keyword, or by activating the block ability on your character card. So basically, if I am being attacked, I could discard this to stop being attacked, or I could play it for its abilities. And if you're doing a command or assist, you can get +1 power. And command has to go with the polities, and we'll get to those later. This basically is as you're doing an attacking type action that's not a direct attack. Lets you get extra power to do more damage. Alright, then we have the 2 different types of damage cards. So we have 15 copies of Blast Wound. So we have a big stack of those. And what Blast Wound does, again, it's listed as a basic card, just so if it ever references that. It does say at the bottom here, when gained, put into play. So like I said, someone will clog up your deck. This one doesn't. It sits in play, but has an ongoing effect. Your assets, or your assists have -1 power for every 2 damage you control. End of the game, for every 2 damage you own, lose 1 VP. So yeah, this is going to be hurting more in team versus team. So the more you have sitting out, your allies, or you're not going to be able to help people as much because you're wounded. And at the end of the game, it's going to hurt a lot more. And then we have 10 damage of the other one, which is Energy Leak. It just says, when gained, put in your discard pile. So you get this, goes in your discard. So later, on another turn, when you draw this, it says, on your turn, play this card before any other card in your hand. Lose 1 Energon if you have 2 or more. End of the game, lose, for every 2 damage you own, lose 1 VP. Yeah, so this will get in your hand. So it takes up a place of a card you could be using for anything else. Even a starter card's better than that. Plus you're losing Energon. It's always definitely a bad thing. Even if you only had 1 Energon and you won't lose any, it's still replacing a starter card, which could have been a movement, or a healing, or an attack, or a range, or something. Alright, so we have looked through all of the basic cards. Now we're going to hop into the main Transformers you play as. And we'll go ahead and take a look at our Autobots first. Because now we kind of have an idea of what our basic stuff everyone can do, and now we can see how everyone can be a little bit different. If you're Prowl, it says when battling, each maneuver you control has +2 power. So maneuver are one of the card types. They'll be listed like that. Say blue for maneuver. There's different color coded, which is really nice. His Energon abilities are draw 1 card or mission. Then replace it with another card in hand or mission you control by placing it on top of that deck. For 2 Energon, gain 1 maneuver in your space. So it's going to be all about getting maneuvers. So if you're playing Prowl, you're probably going to be trying to get the maneuvers. So if you're playing Versus, your opponent might be trying to take them, so you can't get them. If you're playing Cooperative, your teammate might be like, hey, I'm going to let you get them. I'm going to get these other types of cards. If we flip him, we convert him to alt mode. He has movement 2 and vehicle mode. Pay 1 to move. Peek at any card in your space or at the top of any deck. When battling adversaries, -1 power. So it kind of makes sense. Vehicles aren't necessarily as strong because they're not generally built for attacking, but they have the movement ability. But yeah, this will help him get around that matrix, the table faster, the board. But also lets you look at cards, get you a little heads up on what's coming up. Our second Autobot is Hot Rod. When you battle an adversary in the same turn it was revealed, just target card has +1 power. You can pay 1 to confront, get +2 power, or pay 2 to destroy up to 2 cards in your discard pile. So he's all about attacking, getting stronger. He's gonna do more damage. So he would kind of be like your gun-ho character. And if we convert him to his hot rod form, because he's a hot rod, 2 movement, discard 1 non-damage card you may convert when battling adversaries, +1 power. So what's nice here is that it lets him flip right back into his attack mode a lot quicker. That's his idea. He can move. Oh, I need to be able to attack. I need to flip over to my other side. We have Alita 1. When you buy or gain an Autobot, place it on the top of your deck. This is very powerful because that means you get to use it on your next turn versus it going to your discard. You have to wait till your deck runs out and then reshuffle it. So for 1 energon, target Autobot you control has +2 powers, or 2, target character in your space gains 1 damage for each Autobot you control. So she's all about gaining allies, So you get all the different Autobots who tend to come help you. If we transform her, I love that it's the Cybertronian car. I wish they would have done that for all of them and given them their Cybertronian forms, because it's the war on Cybertron. So she has 3 moves. She gets to move a little bit faster than the other 2, which is also neat. A little bit different in the character. She has spend 2 move to draw a card. She can spend 2 of that move, but then she still has that 1 extra move. Our last Autobot is Optimus Prime. So if you command or confront, +1 power for each card you control with a cost of 3+. So he's going to gain benefits from having high cost cards. For 1, you can block and attack against any character anywhere in the Matrix. Or for 2, you can gain 1 VP or draw 2 cards while on a polity under your command. So what's neat about this, it's kind of a good and bad thing. They're kind of having him, and spoilers ahead, like the other big guys, Megatron, is they're both utilizing, this command and polity mechanic, which is basically taking control of a specific area on the board to gain bonuses. Kind of imagine like King of the Hill as a simplified version, and you gain bonuses from that. So him and Megatron kind of are playing more off of having you focus on doing that. Not to say you can't use him in other stuff, but like his second ability isn't going to do anything if you're not playing with polity. So if you use him in like a different set and you're not using those polity cards, his second effect doesn't do anything at all. So it's just, it's kind of interesting when they do that. I'm not going to say it's good or bad because it's what it is. There's so many other characters if you've been buying every set that, if you don't want to use that, there's plenty of choices. So 2 movement, and when you move to a face-up adversary, or you may convert before the ambush or draw 1 card. So that's kind of cool. So you can automatically choose to jump into attack mode. Now let's take a look at our Decepticons. We're going to look at Hunger. When you clear a ruin, immediately refill that space. You may then flip the card face up. So ruins are a new card type that we have. Which basically, once you defeat something, a ruin goes in its place rather than a brand new card. And again, we'll get into those a little bit more, but he's going to be focused on that. If you're playing, kind of like Optimus, if you're not playing with the ruins, because some of the earlier sets don't have them, his entire ability is going to be useless. But I really don't see any reason not to include ruins once you've bought them. So destroy 1 card in your discard pile or clear a ruin in your space. So yeah, we'll look at what them ruins do when we get to those cards. So here's Hunger. He's a twin-headed dragon. That's really cool. So he only has 1 movement, so he's a little bit slower than everybody. The first time you convert to alt mode this turn, you may give 1 damage you control to a target character in your space. Definitely cool. So if you so when you transform him into this, convert him into this, when you transform, he can give away damage. So kind of like a little healing effect. We have Slipstream. In battling adversaries not in your space, your cards with +2 range have +2 power. So kind of like Hot Rod was our upfront attacker, Slipstream's the ranged attacker. Your starter cards have +1 range, and draw 1 card or return up to 2 damage you control to this stack. So again, a little self-healing. And then her ult, she has 2 move, but she also has flight built in. It says when you convert to bot mode, you may pay 1 to move, place 1 card from your discard pile on top of your deck. Yeah, cool. So when she does transform back the other way, she can pay her movement to kind of set herself up for a next turn. Barricade. The first time you convert to bot mode during your turn, the card in your space costs 1 less power to buy. Nice to get a little bit cheaper. For 1, reveal the top 2 cards of the target player's deck. If either is a starter, gain 2 power at 0 range. Or 2, gain 1 card from the destroyed pile. There's a cost 2 to 4. So if you have ways to destroy cards, you can gain stuff back. Which is a neat mechanic as well. And I like how the Autobots and Decepticons play differently. It's not just like, oh, Autobot did this, Decepticon does the exact same thing. They play very differently. It says, to move, adversary characters cannot buy a card in your space. Start your turn, you may convert. So he gets a free convert every turn. When battling adversaries, -1 power. So kind of like Slipstream and Hot Rod. He's all about attacking, but he's more about, he's straight up like, I just want to find the characters I don't like. He's pursuing them because he's a cop car. And then finally, we have good old Megatron. When you take command of a polity, you may defeat an adversary robot in the Matrix. So this one has even more specific to that polity. For 1, target card you control has +1 power for each polity under your command. And if you do the command, +3 power or draw 1 card. So he's really, you have to have them in there for him to even be used. And then he has 2 movement in his tank form. First time you battle during each of your turns, target card you control has +1 power. So those are 6 different characters you can play as. Those are basic cards. I think what we're going to do, is I went over the rules and stuff a little bit, is we're going to maybe just call this a part 1 video, and we will jump in and do part 2, and hopefully we'll kind of fly through some of the rest of the cards in part 2. Alright, see you guys then. Bye.